All right, let's get to Brock Purdy. What do you think? Is he going to be ready to go week 1, September 10th at Heinz Field? And if not, who do you predict will start at quarterback that day at Heinz Field against the Steelers? Darnold, Allen, Lance? What do you think?
Allen. I think we have all the indicators are that Brock Purdy's on track. But again, it's July 6th. Is he still going to be on track on August 15th? Is he still going to be on track on September 10th, I believe, is the date of that game at Heinz Field. So there are still a lot of checkpoints for Brock Purdy to hit. I think that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been very straightforward about this. They've said that Brock Purdy is the favorite, the leader in the clubhouse for good reason. Football's a meritocracy. He's done a whole lot more than anyone else on this 49ers roster at the QB position in his career, even though it's not that big of a body of work, right? But it's still more than what Trey Lance has done. It's still more than what Sam Darnold has done over a larger sample, and it's more than Brandon Allen has done. So we saw some really impressive football from Brock Purdy last season. And he had weapons at his disposal, sure, but I mean, he said it himself. His job is to play point guard effectively with those 5 eligibles that the 49ers have at their disposal. And he played point guard very effectively. On top of that, there's a lot of, I mean, you've dealt with this a lot on social media. There's just a lot of misled narratives, or maybe I should say misleading narratives. 2 of them are Purdy doesn't have arm strength or requisite arm strength to play at the NFL, which is completely disproven by the tape. I mean, completely. I can't find a more categorically false statement if you actually look at the evidence of some of the throws that Brock Purdy made last year. And B, it's that Purdy somehow doesn't have upside. Purdy moves faster in a short area than Trey Lance does. Purdy's 10-yard burst is faster than Trey Lance's burst. And Trey's a good athlete. But Purdy, and I think this shocked the 49ers too. I think they said, oh, wow, he's running away from some defensive linemen in college. That's cute. Maybe it probably won't happen in the NFL. That's why they waited until number 262 to pick him. That's why the whole league skipped on him in the draft, except for the 49ers with that final pick. But when we saw Purdy actually play last year, his escapability was a plus asset. And it gave the 49ers a new look to their offense that he didn't have with Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't have that escapability. So this whole narrative that Purdy somehow doesn't have upside, that he's just sitting in the pocket, checking down and is unable to step away from the rush, it couldn't be farther from the truth, right? He's got upside because of the escapability. And the arm strength, it has been able to deliver everything that Kyle Shanahan needs it to deliver throw-wise in this offense. So there's a reason why he's the favorite in the clubhouse. It's the resume and the upside. It's not just the resume. As far as the second part of your question goes, I have no clue. And I don't think the 49ers right now are in a position where they've decided either. Who do they favor more, Trey Lance or Sam Darnold? And Brandon Allen is also going to get some reps in there. I think they're really going to let this competition during training camp decide that.
One of the things that came out when you were, I think, on your honeymoon was Albert Breer asking that question and kind of reframing the quarterback thing, from, hey, who's got the highest upside, or that kind of that debate, to, hey, the Niners are all in on Brock. They want him to be their guy. If he's not ready to go week 1, the question then becomes, who do they want to hold them over for 4 to 6 weeks? And then he asked that question, and as quickly as he asked it, he answered it and said, well, it's likely Sam Darnold, which I thought was it's a little presumptuous considering Darnold's never really accomplished much either at the NFL level. But it made me think once again that, he's getting his information from somebody on the inside, and maybe they've said, hey, if Brock is ready to roll week 1, it's him. But if he ain't ready to roll, it's likely going to be Sam Darnold. We're going to find out this summer what these guys look like on the field side by side and in the preseason. And we'll have a lot more to go on at that point. Did you see the Breer report where he kind of reframed the argument of who's going to be number 2 and then suggested it was going to be Darnold over Lance? And I think there were an awful lot of people that really pushed back hard on that notion, if indeed that's a sourced report from Breer as opposed to his personal opinion.
Yeah, I saw all this stuff. I would check the internet once a day or so, and it would always pop up to the top of your feed on Twitter. I'm of the opinion that these are just opinions, that there's no way for anybody to really know. Of course, he can talk to some people in the building, but if the people in the building aren't even sure yet, and I don't think the 49ers would be running a competent organization right now if they had predetermined this, because you have invested so much in Trey Lance and so much has been taken away by injuries over his first 2 seasons. I think it'd be malpractice to not run him out there in training camp and see if some of the mechanical improvements that he's been working on, see if that can hold up in training camp, see where he's at in a competition. This is football. Let competition decide the pecking order of your roster. So I don't believe for 1 second that the 49ers have determined something on July 6th. I keep on looking over because I'm checking the date to make sure I'm not saying the wrong date. But yeah, I really don't think. I think that the breeze might be blowing in a certain direction. There might be somebody in the building who Albert Breer knows who might like Sam Darnold, who might have, said something nice about Sam Darnold, and then Albert Breer goes and offers his opinion saying, I think it's going to be Sam Darnold. But whether it's Schefter, whether it's Breer, every single time these guys have spoken on this, they have made it fairly clear, I think, that it's their opinion. And, even leading up to the draft in 2021, I know Schefter was really sure in that one interview that it was going to be Mac Jones that the 49ers picked. But he never said what he was basing that on. And now we know, and I knew this before the draft, the 49ers didn't even let Mike McDaniel know who they were going to pick. The coaching staff was completely in the dark heading into the 2021 draft where they picked Trey Lance. So how was Adam Schefter supposed to know who they were going to pick? That's why I always kind of laugh at the notion that it was supposed to be Mac Jones, but they reversed course. No, nobody knew. And that's what happens when nobody knows. People want to create a narrative because they don't like not knowing. And then if it's a false narrative, because they don't know, because there's no information coming out of the building, then that false narrative can grow into an echo chamber, right? And it starts bouncing around and getting louder. And that's how everybody was so sure, or not everybody, but almost everybody was so sure the 49ers were going to pick Mac Jones when they were actually going to pick Trey Lance. It's just that information was sealed behind closed doors. Not even Mike McDaniel knew who they were going to pick. This is a much smaller scale of that. But I think that right now the 49ers legitimately, again, are still doing their due diligence. They're still going to let training camp happen, and then they'll decide when the time is right who's going to start, and that's when you're actually going to have confirmed reports coming out instead of just opinions.
It is weird that guys, though, who we know have not been there for any of the OTAs would then voice their opinion on who's going to be the starter when they haven't seen Trey's development and they haven't seen the two quarterbacks side by side. I'll just say this. If I were them, I would not feel comfortable voicing my opinion on something that I hadn't put my own eyes on, unless I had some source saying, hey, trust me, it's going to be this guy over that guy. Otherwise, I would just be like, hey, it's going to be a competition. We'll find out this summer. But I think it is interesting to me that these guys were all willing to not just kind of discuss this openly, but also then include their opinion that Darnold, and I understand reading the free agent thing. Hey, they signed him on day one of free agency and blah, blah, blah. And he's the 12th highest cap figure on the entire team to be the third string quarterback. I understand several of the things they're looking at, but still, I think I would have left my opinion, if it simply was my opinion, out of that, just for fear of being wrong.
Yeah. Well, knowing 49ers social media, I would have done that. Here's the thing. I always listen to these things in context when they're speaking. And to me, they're almost speaking flippantly when they're giving their opinion. It was almost like a side thought. Oh, yeah, Sam Darnold. Yeah, I think he's going to start. I don't think that these guys realize how personally 49ers Twitter takes those lines, right? If they give an opinion about Sam Darnold or Trey Lance, it's going to get aggregated by 50 different sites. Everybody's going to go on to their channel and talk about it. Comment sections are going to blow up, and it's going to take this one line. Remember that Adam Schefter and Albert Breer are reporting on all 32 teams. So
right.
He might not have even thought twice about that one line. He might have heard from somebody in the 49ers that Sam Darnold has looked good, and that's why he said, oh, yeah, and I think that Sam Darnold might be in that position because the 49ers like him. And then he went on to his next line, and then he went on to reporting on one of the other 32 teams. He might not have even thought twice about that line at the time, yet 49ers fans on the internet are going to dissect it for the next 3 months. Right. So I think that there might be a little bit of a disconnect between those two. And that's why in the off season, I just always urge people to sit back and just let it play out, because we can go crazy if we take the magnifying glass to every little sentence that's said. At best, this is going to be secondhand information, right? At best, it's not coming directly from the building.